Scott Shifflett, we are in the midst of Cody Rhodes' WWE title reign. It is a six-man match. Acceptable?
Yes, it is. For the story they're telling, we're no longer in, Vince's WWF, WWE, where it was every month to month. As we've seen with Triple H's storylines, they go a little bit longer. So I'm okay with the six-man because it looks like it's leading to Cody versus Solo at SummerSlam.
Yeah, it could go a few ways, but it's definitely story driven. But before we get into that story, how you're feeling, 120, 150 days into Cody Rhodes' reign? How is he doing as world champ?
Coming off of Roman Reigns' reign, he wasn't around much, so I think it's a little jarring for some people to see Cody around every week, which I think is fine. They sort of had the issue where they didn't really have a challenger at first, and I think they did a very good job at elevating AJ Styles for their two matches and Logan Paul. It's not as bad as when Bryan won at 30 and then he was feuding with Kane and it was horrible. So you can even go back to 20 when Chris Benoit feuded with Kane again eventually.
Triple H, Shawn again.
Triple H,
and dropped it.
Yeah, so it's, they have to build those guys back up, and there wasn't that many heel side if you take out Roman. And then they took out Jimmy immediately. You could have had Jimmy feud with them at first for beating Roman, but Jimmy, I don't think will ever be there. Jay is there, in my opinion.
I like the teases of Randy Orton kind of piercing over at that title ever so slightly a few times now. Kevin Owens seems to be like his boy. He's got his back constantly. He is kind of in limbo, but you feel like he could get fed up with all this and turn into the true Kevin Owens and perhaps go after it. So it's like Cody Rhodes has foes and potential foes around him at all time. Overall, what do you think of the trio of Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens heading into this match?
I want to go back to I think those two, Orton and Owens, may be the feud for Cody after SummerSlam. Bridge our fall area into Survivor Series, and they're formidable three. I know KO's in this, quote unquote main event match, but I just feel he should be elevated more than just being like, oh, we don't have anything for him, let's stick him together with the tag team person, like into a tag team all the time. I mean, I just want him to be like, instead of like the cusp of like the upper mid card and like plug and play main eventer, I want him to be the true main eventer that I think he is and is deserved for his time in WWF. And I think he's a great main eventer. I think he's better as a heel, to be honest. Just that rat bastard heel. So maybe we'll see that. I mean, we're just waiting for him and Orton to turn on each other.
I wonder if they turn together and then kind of work together and then turn on each other, kind of like we have and then a longer story there. But yeah, it's
when they can't beat Cody. When they can't beat Cody, that's when they'll turn.
Yeah, there's definitely some credibility there for those three to kind of be foes against this kind of new bloodline led by Solo Sikoa. The Friday after WrestleMania, we got Tama Tonga. At Backlash, we got Tonga Loa. And then last Friday on SmackDown in Chicago, we got Jacob Fatu. And then, last Friday night at MSG on SmackDown, they kind of dethroned and kicked out Paul Heyman of the bloodline. So this bloodline has been presented as vicious, ruthless, and take no prisoners, really. And they're out for blood, and they're hungry for power. And power really is, as Roman Reigns himself established, the WWE Championship. And Solo Sikoa saw an opportunity to align himself with a bunch of savages, and he saw a throne empty, so to speak. And he has done in my opinion, decent job in the spot of pretend tribal chief, as CM Punk would say, or perhaps, let's say, fake it till you make it away as tribal chief. So I am not the biggest Solo Sikoa fan, but overall, I think he's done a fine job. I think there's someone in this new bloodline that will absolutely outshine him in the long run. But overall, what are your thoughts of Solo Sikoa as the new tribal chief?
So I think you may know this, but I've been a Solo fan ever since I saw him destroy Elias in a January Raw that was in Nashville, where they had a Nashville street fight, and he just beat the ever-loving piss out of Elias, and I was like, this is what I want to see. You could tell at first when he took out Jimmy, he's getting better on the mic, he's gaining more confidence. they're doing a good job of making Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga feel like big names out the gate, which I think is very good. Because they feel like a formidable foe for Cody, Randy, and KO. And the one year I think you're alluding to, Jacob Fatu, they've really pushed him as a savage, almost Umaga-esque in just the savageness. And, you know, this is admittedly the first time I'd seen Jacob Fatu. I'd heard about him on the Indies. I know he was in MLW and GCW. But they're doing a great job of pushing him as like, holy shit, you don't want to get on his bad side. Like, he took out all three of those guys a couple weeks ago. He basically destroyed Paul. They destroyed Paul. They did the Shield power bomb. I don't think when the story gets played out, Solo will be the tribal chief. He's just like the true second in command, and they're going to do that. The Rock is the true tribal chief. But that's, like I said, down the line, because he gets a lot of shit here. But James Grunberg brought up a great point, how Paul Heyman last year said we were only in the bottom of the third inning with the Bloodline storyline, and everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about? And this is 100% true. It's really breathed new life into something I thought was going to die after WrestleMania. SmackDown's, you know, has in the past couple of weeks has went from a good show to must-see TV, where you feel like you're going to miss something great. Because the past two SmackDowns have just been awesome, even from Drew destroying CM Punk. But it's been buoyed by this Bloodline going against Star 3 heroes here, which I'll give it to you. That's something I loved about WCW and NWA, was it felt like all the baby faces were friends and would run out and help each other. And that's sort of what we're seeing with this, because for so many years, Ryan, we saw Cena just get his ass beat and no baby face coming down. I mean, Cena wasn't the best friend. He did take Zack Ryder's girlfriend and Eve Torres. So I just love what the Bloodline's doing right now. I'm interested to see what 3 we get in this 6-way match. I don't think we're going to see Jacob. I think because I read something where he's been arrested before, so it's hard for him to leave the country. So that's why they held off on him debuting him, because they had the PLEs in international areas. So we know Canada's real strict, and we don't know if they'll let him into the country.
From a TV aspect, that now that you say that, but from a TV aspect, I figured that they would have addressed that last Friday in MSG, their last American TV show before that, because they're going to be in Toronto right before Money in the Bank. So maybe in this upcoming week he is suspended for some reason, or there's a story reason why he's not there. But I don't know. I feel like he should be in the match. I think it would be interested in if Solo wasn't in the match, if Solo was kind of the puppet master and the leader, and you know, they did all the work, they reaped the benefits, they beat the baby faces, and then Solo reaped the awards, because that's kind of, in Solo's mind, that's kind of what he did for Roman. You know, cue Clash of the Castle against Drew, cue WrestleMania 39 against Cody, cue countless other times where Solo Sikoa was the one who had the tribal chiefs back and protected them. And then I like that these three could kind of really do their due diligence to Solo and say, if they add Friday night on SmackDown, that if the Bloodline wins, then Solo will be the next one up for Cody, that you kind of hinted to also. But I kind of like Solo not being involved, and we find that out right before the match, and these three guys take care of business for Solo. And then it's just kind of like, all right, well, at least that's how he feels that the tribal chief should be treated. Show up and win, show up and get rewards. Let the soldiers be the one that do the work, and then, you know, then the captain comes in and kind of takes the glory. That's how I think that it should go.
How would you feel if they make it a 4-on-3 match?
That's fine. You know, the
Solo,
four heels. That makes sense.
Solo never tags in, except for at the very end to pin Cody.
All right, that works. Just as same idea.
I was thinking of that when you were saying that, like, because we've barely seen him touch, and when they had their matches.
Originally, I was thinking, all right, is there a baby face that they could insert? And do they insert Jimmy? Is that big enough? Does that make sense? I just don't see. But then again, Cody, you know, he was the one that kind of rehabbed Jay. So is Cody the one to rehab Jimmy now? You know what I mean? And is this a spot for Jimmy to get rehabbed through Cody's past storylines?
Yeah.
Could kind of work into play here too, because you also had Kevin Owens, who didn't accept Jey Uso right away. Randy Orton wouldn't accept Jimmy Uso right away. Kevin Owens wouldn't accept Jimmy Uso again. But then you would have Cody Rhodes. I've been here. I've done it. I've showed the Usos the way. I've been to war with these guys. I've trust them. I went through it with his brother, so on and so forth. I wonder if that's kind of a lane that we get also. I kind of like it. At first I didn't, but I kind of talked myself into it.
Yeah, actually, you saying that really would make sense from a storyline standpoint.
It would do a lot for Jimmy in a long run.
It would, because I even made the joke earlier, we got main event Jimmy and main event Jay and mid card Jimmy. So, I think it would be good. I really like that. I'm really liking that a lot, Ryan, because I really think we're gonna get Bloodline versus Bloodline at Survivor Series
in the War Games.
And I don't know. In a perfect world, I would have Sammy be the fourth one. Roman, the Usos, and Sammy. That would just be amazing, because it would be like a hell of a story from. The story is 3 years old now, the Bloodline.
2020, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's amazing, just what they've done with this. And I never in a million years thought Jay Uso would be A, I would know the Usos apart, Ryan, and B, actually care about Jay Uso from a character standpoint. But I'm really excited for this match. Money in the Bank. WWE recently has really shown it's quality over quantity. They're not banging out 12 matches on pay-per-view like a certain other company where you get 5 or 6 matches and they're usually pretty good. I mean, somehow they still go 3 hours. So.
One's $50 and the other one's 10. So
yeah,
quality over quantity. I don't know if you can roll out 5 shows for $50. That's kind of
absolutely not.
That's bad metrics right there. But all right, a few questions before we head out of here. Shift. Who's winning this match?
Bloodline.
I think so too. Especially if they go Solo and Cody, obviously. But my next question ties into but. All right, when do we see Roman Reigns back on television?
SummerSlam.
At SummerSlam, not for SummerSlam.
At SummerSlam.
Okay, then that makes sense. So I was going to say, if we were to get Cody Rhodes versus, I don't know, maybe Randy Orton in a friendly match at SummerSlam, could we get Roman Reigns here at Money in the Bank for a Roman Reigns Solo Sikoa match at SummerSlam? That was my if.
Too early for it, in my opinion.
Too early. Okay, I can see that. I definitely see the result of this match being a fork in the road where you can kind of veer left with Roman Reigns versus Solo, or veer right versus Solo versus Cody. So with that fork in the road, is Solo Sikoa really ready to eat, so to speak?
This is going to be. Do you remember that one night after Mania where they had Mike Lesnar destroy Michael Cole, and they sent Brian Saxton out to do announcing duties?
2015.
And he just shit the bed, pretty much. This is what they're doing with Solo. It's this sink or swim moment. So they're going to see if he can do it. And they're not being heavy-handed like they were with Jinder when somehow Jinder won the world title. I'm not saying Solo's going to win the world title. I hope he doesn't. But this is the sink or swim moment. I'm not saying he might be a permanent main eventer, but he could be an upper mid-carder to main eventer, plug and play. So I'm really interested in it. But that's what I love. For the first time in years, it feels like probably not the last 3 or 4 years, but it feels great that we don't know what the hell's going on. It's we would know, LOL, Cena wins. That used to be the one thing. Or the Reign of Terror, Triple H is going to win again. This feels, it's not Attitude Era because I think that's aged poorly, but it's we're turning in and we don't know what the hell's going to happen, Ryan. And that's what feels great to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah, good stuff.
Or any show for that matter.
We can talk scenarios, right? We can do this, we can do that, they can do this, they can do that. That's because they've laid a bunch of bricks for a good foundation of a story either way. So yeah, it's interesting. What do you think Paul's here? What do you think happens with Paul coming out of this?
It's gonna be going back to SummerSlam. Heyman's gonna show up at SummerSlam and he's gonna show his real tribal chief out, like the Undertaker and Underfaker angle, where Paul Bearer brought out the true Undertaker. And he's bringing out the true tribal chief. Hopefully the delivery isn't as bad.
Don't mix that up like that. All right, yeah. Paul's been fantastic. That was excellent at MSG. And Paul really is the backbone of this storyline in a way, too.
Well, when I first heard about it, so I watched SmackDown on a delay. When I first heard about it, I thought they were jumping him into the bloodline. But then when I watched it and I saw that he wouldn't put delay on him, I was like, oh, Paul's out.
Yeah,
it's not a tough love thing. He's out.
You figured that it would be a spike, but this guy got a spike and a fucking splash and a big ass shield power bomb. It was fantastic stuff. But like I said earlier, Heyman is the backbone of the bloodline. But speaking of the backbone, tell us a little bit about the backbone before we get out of here.
Before we do that, I will get into it. Do we get a new wise man
for just Solo?
Yeah, for this version of the bloodline.
Who would it be though? Who is even have any inklings of being relevant to it?
I don't know, but Solo wants to bring it back in his image, and he
like a Rikishi. I don't know.
What about Armando Estrada? Or is that just two
inside baseball? Alejandro Estrada?
Yeah.
Well, there's adjacent. Yeah, there is some, as you guys would say, great value-ness there. But I like Estrada. I could it work? Perhaps. I just don't know if they go down that lane. I'd kind of be interested, actually. I think he could pull it off. I thought he was excellent as Umaga's handler. And,
yes,
Umaga part of the bloodline. And, yeah, you never know. That would be kind of cool.
I mean, hell,
I'd be open to it. I'd be open to it.
Rock's not true blood related, and they can be like, here's my cousin, Armando, so.
Yeah. Don't hate it. All right, Chiff, what's up with the backbone?
All right, we have our own wrestling feed. It's a brother to the NoSo podcast network. It's basically we cover a lot of podcasts. I have Are You Smarter Than Vince Russo's WCW, which I'm 4 episodes in and it's already destroying my will to watch wrestling. I kid, but it's Vince Russo must have been doing cocaine when he was doing that. It's a great podcast. We have Linking Up Lucha, which has made the move from the NoSo. We have Ruthlessly Aggressive Pod. Jake and Logan just finished SummerSlam 2003, which I enjoyed liking as a kid, but going back and watching it is not that good. That's on there. We have Highway to the Impact Zone that was on the PTBN Wrestling Network. We have the Shit Take, which is Sean and Keithy.
My personal favorite.
Offering up horrid opinions. Just Sean tried to say Larry Z was the GOAT on the most recent one. Horrible. We have the Hidden Gems, where we find hidden gem matches and discuss them. And then we have YouTube Roulette, which came from Place to Be Nation. And it's myself, Souza, Sean Kidd, Logan, and Jake. And it's like Mystery Science Theater 3000 watching wrestling matches, where we sometimes pick good matches, and other times I pick a Jeff Jarrett and Jerry the King Lawler match from 2016, which is 25 minutes of stalling.
Sounds kind of interesting, though.
Also found an Enzo and a Jerry the King Lawler match that we watched one time. That was a casket match.
Oh, I actually remember that match. That's actually interesting. All right, cool, Chef. Thanks, buddy. See you on the next one.
Thank you.